everyone, this is Alexandra Merisoiu from the Merisoiu Technique Institute of Health and Human Movement. And we are here to help you, the runner, run faster, further, with less effort and fewer injuries. And today we are talking with Stephanie Moore from Healthy Hand from UK. Stephanie began her career a long time ago in the integrated health world back in 1991. I mean, it's like about 26 years of knowledge, experience, education, and she's here with us today to share some of her wisdom. During this time, just to give you a bit of a background, her studies ranged from personal training, massage therapy and anatomy, stress management, psychology, and she has a master's degree in counseling and psychotherapy. So she knows a lot, guys. So pay attention to what she's saying today. But she's here to talk to us about nutrition, where she also holds a degree, of course, in nutrition and nutritional medicine. And because she worked with marathon runners and is a runner herself, Stephanie agreed to share with us some of her knowledge and experience on this specific topic. So welcome to the show, Stephanie, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, well, let's kick off our talk with why is nutrition important for a runner's performance? I mean, how does it affect us?
It affects us on so many levels. That's a hugely loaded question. From a very simple point of view, it is about energy. It's about allowing the body to consume nutrients and energy that is then put into your performance. But it's much more complicated than that. When we exercise, when we do anything, even when we're sleeping, we need nutrients. The body is using vitamins and minerals and fatty acids and amino acids all the time. And as soon as you start increasing your exercise load, you are massively increasing your nutritional demand. And if you are not meeting those requirements, so I'm not just talking about energy, I'm not just talking about calories, I'm talking about nutritional content. If you do not maintain your nutritional content, your ability to recover quickly will diminish. You'll get more injuries that you'll recover from more slowly. Your body will just wear out more quickly. And critically, when we exercise, we increase our free radical production. So free radicals are like kind of our exhaust fumes. We're making them all the time, just with our bodies ticking over. And as soon as you start increasing that ticking over up your revs, i.e. exercising, your level of free radical production goes up exponentially. Why that's so critical is free radicals damage healthy cells. Mm-hmm. And the quality of your diet will determine how much or how little of those free radicals damage your cells post-workout and during workout. So it's about quality. It's not just about numbers. And it is essential not only for you to be a good performer, but to be a good recoverer. And that's the mistake a lot of people make. They push their bodies hard, they don't recover properly. And that just ends up in some kind of burnout or injury. So it is about associating what you put in your mouth with giving information to your body, giving your body all the information it needs to mend and heal. And it absolutely is not about the calories, which is what a lot of runners get caught up with, is about how many calories they're burning and how many calories they need to take in. Even the macronutrients, it's not all about the macros. It's about the quality of the food. But we'll get into that in a bit more detail, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're actually talking about recovery and macronutrients and micronutrients. Can you talk a bit about that? I mean, this is a question from one of the listeners who will listen, actually. And it was what and how much to eat for training and recovery. So from a recovery point of view, I mean, what kind of macronutrients, and please define the macronutrients in case our listeners don't know.
Sure, of course. So macronutrients are the big stuff. We're talking protein, carbohydrate, and fat predominantly. Those are the major macronutrients. You can also look at fiber, which is sometimes considered a macronutrient. But so they're the big chunky stuff. And then your micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals and fatty acids, amino acids. So what athletes, trainers, people who are really wanting to get into their fitness often look at, and nowadays there are all these apps which make it so much easier to follow, which I have very mixed feelings about. We're looking at how much protein, how much carbohydrate, how much fat you're taking in on a daily basis, depending on your needs, which is size and expenditure, level of exercise and type of exercise. One of the big areas that have been looked into and really studied well is what you do post-training. So as a lot of your listeners are probably aware, we hold fuel in the form of glycogen, which is coming from glucose, which is a carbohydrate. We hold a certain amount in our muscles and our liver. And that allows us to have immediate energy all the time. But it's a relatively small amount, particularly for doing what we're talking about, endurance training and endurance running. So initially, your body will run on carbohydrates, using up the glycogen stores in your muscles and liver. And what the big focus has been on for a very long time with recovery is the speed at which you replenish those glycogen stores. So you get your muscles refueled with the carbohydrates, the glucose again. So it appears, and this is still holding up even after years of research and people questioning it, the first 30 minutes post-exercise are pretty crucial. The speed at which your muscles kind of draw in carbohydrates, so we're talking about your starchy foods, your sugary foods potentially, although we'll get into that. I'm very anti-sugar. Your starchy veg, some fruit, but the carbohydrate, sugar-based foods go into the muscles very quickly and replenish your stores of glycogen. Now, I know we're going to talk in a little bit about running fat adapted, where actually that changes everything. But for most people training in the most conventional ways, you need to be getting carbs into your system ASAP post-training. However, there's a big problem here. When we are exercising, we are in a state of what we call fight or flight. We're in a state of stress. Our body is geared for action. It's a very primal, biological, physiological response, which makes us good at doing exercise. All the blood's going to our arms and legs, and we're all pumped up and revved up and ready to go. This state of being, the fight or flight, is part of our nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system, is entirely opposite to your digestive system, which is called your parasympathetic, your rest and digest. And it takes a bit of time. People often find they are not hungry immediately after training. They just don't want anything. Even though they may have done a marathon, they don't immediately feel like eating anything. That's where some liquid supplements can be useful, but actually food is a better option. But you've got to give yourself a little bit of window to calm the body down, rest enough so that you've switched off fight or flight, you've switched into rest and digest. That can take a good 10 or 15 minutes, but then get your fuel in so that you are optimizing that window of getting the glycogen back into your muscles. And we can go into some specifics of what that might look like if you want to, but that's where the carbs are really useful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. It's a very interesting topic here. So, keep going.
Well, over my many years of doing this sort of stuff. By the way, I've been a runner all my life, and I run because I love it. Yeah. I'm not a competitive runner at all, and I'm a very anti-social runner. I have friends who always say, "Let's meet up and go for a run," and I say, "No, thank you." Me and my dogs, we go out running, and I have extremely fit, athletic hunting dogs, and they keep me on my toes. So we go and we go and we go, and I love it. And it's much more about my state of mind, the benefit that it gives my brain, as much as my body. So I do it for those reasons. So I'm not a competitive runner. I just want to put that out there. Over my years of doing my research, particularly into mental wellness and nutrition, I have come to realize that grains are a problem. Now, having been a vegan, I was vegetarian for 7 years. I was vegan for 4 of those years. I lived on grains. That's bread, pasta, rice, or your crackers, or your kind of stodgy filly-or-uppy stuff, or your breakfast cereals and that sort of stuff. Oats, which is a great runner's favorite. These foods can be a problem for many, and particularly the gluten-containing grains, which are wheat, rye, and barley. They are very inflammatory. And what happens when we exercise a lot is we trigger inflammation in the body. It's coming back to those free radicals and the body getting damaged from all this exercise we do. And we have to reduce the amount of inflammation in our body so our bodies can heal as quickly as possible and as well as possible. Grains tend to trigger an inflammatory response, so they're not helpful. They're full of carbs, they're full of glucose, but they're not helpful. So when we're talking about getting your glucose, your glycogen back up post-training, we should really be looking at starchy veg. So we're talking potatoes, sweet potatoes, a proper food. I'm not talking about gels and bars and even breakfast cereals, which are so processed. You can use some berries or some lower sugar fruits and make a really good smoothie and get some carbs in through things like cashew nuts are great. Cashews have a good percentage of carbohydrate. They've also got tons of other nutrients, protein, fat, fiber, and other nutrients. You can use things like coconut water, which has some natural carbohydrates in, but it's also massively rehydrating. It's very isotonic. It goes into our system really easily because of the mineral balance. Various things that will get the carbohydrates in without you being aggressive on your digestive system. And as I say, grains can be very aggressive. I don't mind some oats, and they're a nice thing to add to a smoothie or to have as a post-workout breakfast if you're training in the morning, but soak them overnight. So you get your porridge oats, use whole ones. The less that's been done to them, the better. Processed food is not the way to go. So you want things that are whole as possible. Soak them in water overnight at room temperature. You have kind of woken them up. You've made the enzymes in the food come alive. They're much more digestible. They'll whiz up into a smoothie much better. They're much less aggressive on the gut. They're also gluten-free, so that they're a more useful one. But balance. It's about having a balance. A whole bowl full of oats are not a good idea. But throw in protein and fat on top of the carbs that are in your oats, then you've got a much better way of moving those nutrients through the body and into your cells where you need them. So my philosophy is very much, whenever you're eating anything, think, where's my fat, where's my protein, where's my fiber? Because people are always eating carbohydrates, and they're overeating carbohydrates. You want to balance it, fill up, and nourish yourself with the really nourishing food, which is protein, fat, and fiber.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of coconut. Coconut in its fat form, so not so much the liquid, although it is a great rehydrator, but that's the only time I think people really need to be having coconut water is to rehydrate or during training, during a run. And even then I would do half and half with water.
Why is that?
One, it will go in more quickly if you dilute it a bit more. It's got this lovely balance of minerals that's very similar to our own blood plasma, so the body takes it in really easily. Apparently, if you are massively dehydrated, you could put it into your system intravenously. Not that I ever have, not that I recommend it, but in theory, it's so close to our blood plasma, the body would just take it up. So it carries nutrients, particularly your what's the word for it? Your sodium and potassium and they'll come to me. But your isotonic minerals go in really easily through the coconut water, but you need to do it partially, at least, with some extra water, because when it's very sweet, it's very concentrated. You don't need that intensity.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the coconut flesh is amazing. Coconut flesh is about coconut meat is about 92% saturated fat, which most people go, what? Oh my God, I have a heart attack. And no, you won't. It's this amazing form of fat called MCTs, medium chain triglycerides. And they are utilized by the body as energy really, really quickly. They're a very clean fuel for the body. They re-energize the body very well. They feed the brain. I'm using it therapeutically with patients with neurological disorders like Alzheimer's. Really, really nourishing. So putting in a nice full fat, none of your low fat nonsense, full fat coconut milk into a blender with a good handful of mixed berries. Berries are low sugar, high fiber, high nutrient. Some soaked cashew nuts, some soaked oats. Get some good fats in like avocado. Then you've got a really nourishing way post-training to get some nutrients back into your system. If you are worried about carb levels, you can add in a bit of banana. I would go the paler, sort of pale yellow green, the better, because you've got starches rather than sugars, and blend it all up. And that's a great way. People love their protein powders. I don't think we should really need it if we eat well enough. It really depends on your level of training and how hard you're pushing your body. But adding maybe some whey protein afterwards for the easily available amino acids can be useful too, if people really want to do that. But I'm talking about real food. And what people forget, particularly early morning training, is that when they come back for their breakfast, whatever time that might be, that the first meal that they have post-training, they think of breakfast foods, toast, bagels, waffles, breakfast cereals. And this is a craziness, you know. In India, they eat curry for breakfast. And in Iceland, they eat fermented whale blubber for breakfast. You know, we can eat anything. It doesn't have to be a breakfast food. And certainly here in the UK and in America, you know, we got into this breakfast stuff, which is invariably very sweet, very processed, and very grain-based. And I would just urge you to widen your view on breakfast foods. It can be any and should be anything, and a wide range of foods. People get into the habit of eating the same breakfast every day. You wouldn't have the same dinner every day, so why are you having the same breakfast every day? So widen your range of foods. You'll get a wider range of nourishments, and always think protein, fat, fiber to balance your carbohydrates.
Yeah, just everything in moderation and in balance. Okay, well, let's go to the fat-adapted running. I know you do that, and I kind of do the same. So tell me, why is this approach? Why did you choose this approach, and why do you think it's a better option than carb loading, for example?
I love
the carb loading.
Yes, it's a huge topic, and I'm so thrilled that you're into it, because a lot of particularly long distance runners just find this so hard to get their heads around because we've all been so indoctrinated that carbohydrates are our best source of fuel. They're our quickest source of fuel, but they're not our best source of fuel. And it takes a bit of time to become fat adapted. We call it that for a good reason. We have to adapt to a different source of fuel. But once you do, it's amazing. The quality of your energy, the longevity of your energy, but also burning fat. So what we're talking about here when we talk about fat adapted is instead of relying on these stores of carbohydrate that I've talked about, which exhaust in most people from between an hour and a half, you're done. There's nothing left. And that's where then people are loading up with their isotonic drinks and their glucose gels because they haven't got any glucose store left. We have a finite and a very small amount of glucose store. And if your body runs on glycogen, glucose, you run out after a certain period of time. Everybody does. Now, as you get fitter and as you get stronger, and actually as you increase your muscle, which is a mistake a lot of women make, they don't build enough muscle. The more muscle you have, the more capacity you have to hold glycogen. But there's an alternative. And I got into this probably about 10 years ago with the whole paleo movement. In fact, it was earlier than that. It was the mid-90s. I was in America doing some training and the Protein Power book came out. I was vegan at the time, but I knew I wasn't well. I wasn't recovering well from training. I was really struggling. I wasn't even enjoying my running anymore, and I've always loved my running.
And you went back to eating meat as well now?
I went straight back to eating meat, and it felt so good. Yeah. So what I learned was that my balance was so wrong. I'd actually become insulin resistant, which is a state of sort of pre-diabetes. I had been eating foods that were upsetting my blood sugar so much. I was eating 4 or 5, 6 times a day because my blood sugar was all over the place. My body was in crisis. Yeah. So understanding that there was a different way was amazing, and it felt a bit scary because my blood sugar was so bad and having to eat so often. The idea of being able to eat better balanced foods that gave me longer time between meals made a lot of sense. When you're eating and digesting, that's your body's main focus, and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And so what I have learned to do is eat better quality, better balanced meals and leave a lot longer in between my meals. So today, for example, it was a slight unusual version, but I do a lot of intermittent fasting, and this is all part of becoming fat adapted. I'll explain more in a moment.
Yes.
But on a Sunday, I ordinarily finish. We have a big Sunday lunch. We finish around 4 o'clock. Then I won't eat anything for the rest of the day. Obviously, nothing through the night, nothing through the early morning. I do my training. I go for my run. And then I have something mid-morning. And that's usually a 16, 17-hour fast. Mm-hmm. So I'm running completely fasted. And it feels great. I feel light. I have very sustained energy. My legs are really light. I am running on my fat sources, and even the leanest of people, the skinniest of people have, I think they're looking at sort of 80,000 calories stored or something. I mean, there's tons and tons, endless.
We have the stores.
We all have the stores. They're never going to run out on you, unlike your glycogen, which is going to run out after about an hour and a half. Yeah. So once your body's good at burning body fat and starts burning body fat from the word go, you can just keep going. So I've worked with 2 American runners who do ultra marathons, so they do 100 milers, running on no carbohydrates. They don't refuel throughout the race. They just keep on going because their body just knows how to burn fat. So that's what I've learned to do. So yesterday, as it happened, we had people coming over. So I finished eating at 2:30 yesterday. So Sunday afternoon, 2:30, finished my lunch, and then didn't eat for the rest of the day, just fluids, non-calorie fluids, through the night. This morning, I did some high-intensity interval training, lower body high-intensity interval training, then went out with my dogs for a run for an hour. And so I had nothing since 2:30 the day before. Yeah. So that was about 19 hours of no food. Felt amazing. Felt amazing.
For example, it did happen that I would have my lunch around 2 or 3 p.m. and then nothing for the rest of the day. But usually it's 5 or 6, and then I don't eat until 10 a.m. or so.
Yeah, great.
And
great.
my runs are always the best. And any type of training. So karate training, for example, I prefer in the morning when I haven't eaten. Although it's not really possible because our training sessions are in the evening. But when I train myself, if I train myself in the morning, then I do it on an empty stomach. And yeah, I mean, my best runs, my best performance is on an empty stomach. But a lot of people... Now, if you look at, I studied a bit of nutrition as a personal trainer, but I specialize in the running technique. But, it says have your breakfast before you go for a run, because then you start your metabolism and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's for everyone and for every type of body, is it? What's your take on this?
No, and you make a very good point. What I have experienced personally, and the people that I have worked with doing various different kinds of marathons, because I've done mountain marathon training, I've done off-road training and on-road marathons. Not everybody is the same, but I am finding that the vast majority of people, once they're fat adapted, and what's the difference is how long that takes, because some people do it really easily, and men tend to do it more easily than women, really annoyingly. But once you're fat adapted, then everybody seems who does that feels good on it, because you get a very stable, very clean source of energy. So when the body is metabolizing fat to make energy, it's a much cleaner. It's not such a dirty fuel. It doesn't oxidize in the same way. So you have a lower output of free radicals if you're a fat burner than if you're a sugar burner. But the vast majority of people are sugar burners. Because
we trained ourselves to be sugar burners.
We trained ourselves to be. We're never meant to be. Our forefathers, we have a very primal biology. We really haven't evolved since we were hunter-gatherers. And when we were hunter-gatherers, it is estimated that we would have been eating the higher sugar, high carb, even high starch foods 4 or 6 times a year. That's it. So we would have occasionally found some honey. End of the summer, there would have been a few berries. They wouldn't have been sweet. Berries on the bush would have given us a sugar hit. Maybe found a tuber, a bit of root with some starch. That was it. And so all the rest of the time we were running on fat. That's why we're so good at storing fat, because it's there for us to use. Trouble is, people are storing fat, but they're running on sugar, so they never use up their fat stores. I'm often asked, how come I see people when they're in the gym every single day, they're running on the treadmill every single day, and they got a big belly? And it's because they are never getting the body into burning fat.
Yes. So how do we do that? Is there a step-by-step process we can follow? Yeah,
there absolutely is a step-by-step process. And the first thing to do is to get the sugar out, the sweet stuff. What's important to understand is that sugar comes in many forms. When I talk about sugar, I'm talking about how the body interprets sugar. That includes everything from, your sweet foods that have been sweetened with your white crystallized sugar, the thing that people think of with sugar. But bread, potatoes, rice, pasta, oats, corn, too much fruit, particularly tropical fruits, even parsnips and beetroot and carrot, all these foods contain sugar. I'm not saying don't eat beetroot and carrots, by the way, because they're really good for you. I'm just making the point. There's sugar everywhere as far as the body is concerned. And while you are eating lots of those foods, your body will only ever run on those foods, because it's an easier way for the body to make energy from glucose in your food. So you start to reduce it, and I would do it gradually. It all depends on your history, really, because, as I say, I can be a bit tougher on men than women. If you've got a history of hypoglycemia, and certainly to do with your menstrual cycle and things, it can be more difficult. But to start with, you just cut all the sweet foods. That's honey, that's treacle, that's so-called healthy agave syrup. It's just everything that is sweetened, you stop. And for a few days, you might be miserable. You might be grumpy. You might be irritable. You might be craving the stuff. If you crave sugar, the quickest way to get rid of that craving is have some fat. And I'm talking full-on fat. Just go for the really good fatty stuff. Eat a whole avocado. Or have a big old chunk of cheese. Yeah. And that's where the coconut's really good too. So get those big chunks of coconut flesh or some coconut yogurt and put coconut flakes on top. Knock the sugar cravings on the head. And then you gradually start to reduce your higher starch foods like your grains. Wheat particularly. I would knock wheat on the head immediately. It's aggressive. It's inflammatory. It is literally addictive, because when we start to break down gluten, which is the main protein, especially in wheat, it's very high in wheat. Gluten is a very indigestible protein. And as the body tries to break it down, the digestive system releases opiates. Literally opiate stimulating factors that make your brain high. So it is as does sugar. It is literally chemically addictive. So you start to reduce those starchy foods, but you have to, so your rice and your pasta and your oats and your potatoes, but you have to replace it with something. Otherwise you're just left wanting, you're left hungry, and that's no good. And that's where you increase your intake of fats particularly, and make sure that every meal has some high quality protein. Not necessarily animal protein, but it is easier on the body. So we're talking eggs and meat and fish, Some dairy products, if you can tolerate them, not everybody can, but fermented dairy is better. So rather than just milk, which actually is a very high sugar food, once it's become a yogurt or a good quality cheese or something like kefir or kefir, which I'm a big fan of, which is a fermented food, tons of goodness in it, low sugar, easily accessible proteins. So those are your animal proteins. And then you've got your nuts and your pulses like lentils and chickpeas and butter beans. They all have some useful protein. But the body struggles more with those. We don't take them up nearly so well. And this is why I am...
The chickpeas and lentils.
The vegetarian proteins, people who are vegetarian and vegan will tell you that they're getting their protein. The balance of amino acids, particularly the branched chain amino acids, which are so crucial to muscle health, they are lacking. They're low in numbers in vegetarian sources of protein. The only better or more balanced source of vegetarian protein is soy, and I'm very anti-soy unless it's fermented, and people generally aren't eating fermented soy in the West. Fermented soy is what the Japanese eat, and that's why they're so healthy. There's things like tempeh and seitan and natto. These things are tough going on the Western palate. So most people are having unfermented soy. It's a horrid, particularly from women, horrid protein. So getting your proteins in, and then don't be afraid of fat. Fat doesn't make us fat. Sugars make us fat. We only get fat in the presence of insulin, and insulin is only ever in our body when we've pushed up our blood sugar. So fats regulate blood sugar, and they teach our body to run on fat better. So lashings of olive oil, good quality butter, nuts and seeds have a nice quality fat. Egg yolks, fabulous. Yes, eggs are great. But, eat them as a whole food. When I was in America training, they were all into egg white omelets because they weren't so scared of fat. And I'm like, seriously? There are gorgeous amounts of amino acids in the white of an egg. But in order to digest, break down and assimilate amino acids, which is what we get from our proteins, they have to be in the presence of fat. So taking the yolk away is a madness. And also there's really good fat in yolk, and they're amazing. When I first trained in nutritional medicine, they were recommending 2 a week. We'll recommend 14 a week now, easily. Well, happy days. They're not going to do you any harm.
Well, actually, the protein powders that say low-fat protein powder, and I'm trying to explain to my clients that if there's no fat, the protein is not going to help. There's
not going to help.
So
actually, it's going to harm. Because then the kidneys have so much nitrogen to process. So you've got to sort of think of fat as a kind of cushioner for protein, and it helps it go through the digestive system at the right rate, and it's got the right constituents to allow your body to pull out those very precious amino acids. Amino acids are what not only mend our tissues and our ligaments on our soft tissue, but also make our brain chemicals. So serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, all these chemicals that are crucial to our well-being mentally come from amino acids. Tryptophan, great amino acid. And to absolutely get those where they need to be, they like to be carried through fats. So don't be afraid of your good fats. But what we're talking about is unprocessed fats, fats that haven't had a lot done to them. And
there's also the thing, nature comes the way it comes for a reason. Like eggs and egg yolk comes for a reason like that.
Absolutely.
Milk.
And
they come...
Milk is an interesting one because, of course, the purpose of milk is to make a little animal grow into a big animal.
That's a bit of a debate there.
It is because,
I agree, yes.
I mean, I'm actually quite a fan of raw milk if you can get it, but that's highly controversial. So this means it hasn't been heat treated, so all the bugs are still in there, and I'm all into bugs.
As a child, I used to drink milk straight from the cow. From my grandparents. But then it's meant to grow a little animal into a huge one, so it's...
So for people who are just struggling with their weight, that can be an issue because also not only is it full of growth hormones naturally, if it's not organic, it will be full of estrogen because they give cows estrogen to produce more milk, and both for men and women, that's a nightmare. Most women are massively estrogen dominant, which is causing all sorts of problems. But also the body seems to have a higher insulin response to milk. Aside from its sugar content, it has an even greater response than we would imagine just from the sugar in it. So it does tend to sort of rev up the body. We have to be a little bit careful of milk. But as I say, once it's been fermented and things like a good quality, organic, natural, no sugar added, Greek style, so it's got a higher fat content, lower sugar content. Good foods for most people. Really nice sort of carrier for your berries, for your coconut sprinkles for your whatever.
Yeah, yogurts do have a bit of natural sugar, but it's not as bad as the others.
Yeah, you should be looking for 5 grams,
5 grams. Okay,
so you'll always
good,
see on the back the breakdown of your macronutrients.
Oh, that's a good advice.
5% under 5
grams
is low sugar.
Okay, that's good. Okay. We talked about running on a fat burning diet.
So running on fat, and let me just say, coming back to being fat adapted, once your body gets used to it, so what you do over a period of time, and I usually take a good 3 months to do this with my clients, so we're gradually reducing carbohydrate load, getting the body to get better at using fat as a source of fuel. If you go for a whole massive bagel and pizza and have a massive carb hit again, your body will go straight back to being a carb burner again. And you'll more quickly go back to being a fat adapted runner if you've already trained yourself to do it. But it stops being a fat adapted body as soon as you start loading the carbs back in again.
So it almost instantly.
Yeah, it's instant.
And it affects our performance pretty much from one day to another.
Absolutely. In fact, people talk about having a carb hangover. So when you've been fat adapted for a while, and then if you, for whatever reason you might do it, you go carb bonkers, the next day people feel like they got heavy-headed, heavy-legged, and the body goes into a state of inflammation. But also carbohydrate. So 1 molecule of carbohydrate attaches 3 molecules of water. So if you are eating a lot of carbs and needing a lot of glycogen in your body, you are carrying much more water than somebody who's fat adapted. And you'll notice on fat adapted athletes, they're much leaner, they're much more cut. You see the outline of their muscles much more, even with somebody very fit and in a really good shape. But if they're running on carbs, they're carrying more water. There's more water in the muscles, there's more water in the tissue. So it's not necessarily a good thing. You're heavier, you're carrying more fluid around with you.
Yes.
And so you lose that water weight when you are not carrying carbs. And then once you have a carb hit, you suddenly swell up. People often get very swollen because they're suddenly attracting all the water molecules in their body again.
They retain all that water, and that's
they do. And then that's hard work.
The water retention problem, and I know from when I was a child that my parents used to talk about it, and people around me. Now we know why. So okay, so we have a few questions.
Sure.
Okay, we talked about what can a marathon runner eat in the morning of the marathon. Oh, by the way, what can they eat? So we talked about the breakfast after you come from your run for recovery.
Well, and again, yes, this is very much to do with if you're fat adapted or not. Let's assume people aren't fat adapted, because I do think it's probably a really tiny minority of marathon runners at the moment who are fat adapted. I don't actually know, but I don't meet many. How
about giving us 2 or 3 options for each? Like, obviously, if anyone wants to contact you to go into further detail, then
of course
they can contact you. But if you give us like 2 or 3 options for carb adapted and fat adapted, just to give us an idea of what we could have in the morning of the marathon, or if we run without, when should we eat during the marathon? Because it's going to be a few hours. Don't know. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, so again, I would stick with the principle of always having fat, protein and fiber present with your carbohydrates. So this is talking to somebody who is not fat adapted, so you're relying on the glycogen levels to be fully restored in your body. Takes a bit of time. So let's move back a little bit. So say you've been doing your normal training and you've got up to your sort of 18, 20 miles a couple of weeks before your event, and then you're tapering off. What can really help increase, and this is in theory, I don't know in practice, but in theory, what can increase how much glycogen your muscle is holding is if in that week just before your event, you go really low carb. And you need to try this out, obviously, before the actual event. You don't want to be experimenting on your body if you've got a really important race coming up. And then a couple of days just before the event, you start loading up with your carbohydrates. And again, I would speak about the carbohydrates being whole food. So whole oats, sweet potatoes are particularly fabulous, maybe some normal white potatoes, and parsnips, some fruit. And if you really want to go the grains, go oats in preference to any other grains because they're less inflammatory. Maybe some basmati rice. That's a nice easy carbohydrate for the body, and it's gluten-free, so it's not too aggressive on the body.
But
so
with fats and proteins.
But always with fats and proteins. Yeah, always with fats and proteins. And so you can start having more carbohydrates in those 2 days pre-event, and your body, your muscles are sucking it up like crazy. Because once you've really emptied your muscles of glycogen, which you'll have done if you haven't been eating many carbs, then the muscles are really hungry and they seem to take it in really well. What I question is the value of the classic pasta party carb loading the night before.
Yes,
it really doesn't make any sense to me. Well, it doesn't. Remember, we have a finite capacity and a very limited capacity for storing glycogen. Now, what the new science is suggesting, which is really interesting, and it throws all this completely on its head, is that once your stores are full, they're full. So it's like filling up your fuel tank in your car. Once it's full, you can't put more in for a longer journey. You have to deplete it before you can fill it back up again. That's the same with our glycogen stores. So once you run for about an hour and a half, your glycogen stores are empty. That's when you're going to need your gels if you use them. I don't like them. I think they're highly synthetic and highly chemicalized, highly inflammatory. You're much better off. Sorry, we've gone on to another question already.
Yeah, we'll go to that next.
A nice little fix like honey and coconut oil mix is a really great way to refuel the body very quickly. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Where were we? Oh, so
it's the morning of the run.
You can only store so much carbohydrate. You can only store so much carbohydrate. So loading up with carbohydrates the night before, assuming you're a normal carbohydrate eater like most people are, your muscles are full of carbohydrate anyway. If you've been having an odd apple here and some dried fruit there and some breakfast cereal and a bit of bread, your fuel sources, your body's priority is always filling up your muscles with glycogen. So when you're eating anything, that's where the carbohydrate goes before it turns to fat. Once your liver and your muscles are full of glycogen, any other starch and sugar sources get turned to body fat. We only can store so much. And as I said, women, because we have smaller livers, we have fewer muscles, we store less carbohydrate. So the wisdom of a pasta party, I think it's just got into it's a nice convivial thing. It's kind of fun. And psychologically, I think you think you're doing the best you can for your body. But you're loading in all these carbs. It's extremely demanding on the digestive system. You're hanging on to a ton of water, and it's got nowhere to go but become body fat. So I don't see that as useful at all. It is. But what's come out? Pasta party. But what's come out recently is that looking at the muscle biopsies of fat-adapted athletes, the glycogen, which we always thought had to come from carbohydrates in food. So you do some training, you use up your muscle stores, they have to refuel, you eat carbohydrates. So what happens when you don't eat up carbohydrates? Well, we assumed that fat-adapted runners just start running on body fat straight away because their muscles have no fuel in them. That's not the case. They are finding that muscles do refuel with glycogen, even on a very low carbohydrate diet, and it does it because when we burn body fat, we release something called glycerol. So when you have fat stored in the body, it has to get broken up into fatty acids, and then there's a glycerol molecule. That glycerol molecule, as you're burning fat, is going into your muscles and restoring your glycogen. So you do always have a glycogen store. We don't even need to get it from food, which is pretty mind-blowing, actually.
The body is amazing, isn't it? It just does what it needs.
Amazing.
It just knows. That's it.
It just knows. It just knows. And that makes perfect sense, because as I said, when we were hunter-gatherers, we were having so little carbohydrate. The body needed to be able to put its own reserves back, because if we haven't got a store of glycogen, we are always vulnerable to being attacked by something in case we suddenly have to do something explosive and we need energy. So it makes perfect sense. Also, the brain likes to run on glucose, and so it makes sense that we can make glucose without needing it from food.
And it had to evolve.
Absolutely.
So during the run, I have 2 or 3 people actually asking about these energy gels, and actually one of them say, I used to think that energy gels were the only way, but now I'm not so sure. And what is your view on them during the race?
Look at the ingredients is all I'm saying. They are horrible. They're really synthetic. They're going to be glucose-based because it's the quickest way of getting energy. And caffeine to give you a boost. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Actually, coming to caffeine, I do like a bit good quality, and it should be organic because there's a lot of fungi and sprays that are on coffee beans. But it's a nice way to rev up your body, particularly if you're in a fasted state. A shot of espresso before training can kind of really kickstart the body. But no, these are highly processed. They're nasty. They are expensive and toxic. I see them as toxic. I mean, just because you're running and you want to do a good time, it doesn't mean you can abuse your body. And I see that as abusing your body. I think, and I see this a lot with people who get very caught up with their performance times. And I get it because it's motivating to try and beat your personal best all the time. They compromise their health in order to do a faster or better time. And I see that as a great cost. You need to look after your body and then it will perform the best it can perform. And although you might think you're burning it off because you're taking in these gels during the actual run, you've still got this residue of highly chemical stuff that your body simply doesn't know what to do with. Let me give you a little example, slightly off piece, but it's the same sort of thing. For years, we thought artificial sweeteners were useful, right? 0 calories, didn't affect your blood sugar. Diabetics, anybody can have them, right? Now we know they are evil, evil, evil for a number of reasons. They're neurotoxic. Why? Because these chemicals are not what we are designed to consume. They irritate the nervous system. 2, the taste buds don't know the difference between artificial sweeteners and regular sugar. So when your taste buds are tasting something sweet, they're telling your brain there's a ton of sugar on the way down. Your brain then tells your pancreas there's a ton of sugar on the way down. Shove lots of insulin into your body. So now you're in a high insulin state as if you'd had a load of sugar, even when you've had 0 calories. Third and final thing, which is really worrying, and this is particularly true of these gels, they are so man-made that your digestive system and all the bacteria that we have in our digestive system that's supposed to break down our food won't know what to do with these chemicals, these man-made chemicals. And the process of breaking down artificial foods that the body was never designed to consume results in toxic byproducts coming out of the good bacteria that then kill off the good bacteria. So now you're massively downgrading the quality of your digestive system and therefore your immune system, because our immune system starts in the gut. So just nothing good, except that it gives you a quick burst of energy. And I don't see that as enough of a good to pay off all the bad. You can get quick energy from, like I say, you can make a little mix and you can have little hits of it. Because coconut fat is so saturated, it's pretty solid at room temperature. You can make energy balls out of coconut oil, some chopped up dates or figs, honey, coconut, desiccated coconut rolled in, put in some cocoa powder. All of these foods are broken down so quickly, so easily, but they're nourishing too. Remember, with all this training and the day of your race, you are burning through nutrients. It's not just energy you need.
The gels are also, they say that they also hydrate you. So how if we have those date balls, that's not gonna help us with hydration.
No, and that's
so what
why
are the options?
I think the best hydrator, as I said earlier, is coconut water, and particularly if it's diluted at least a third or maybe a half with water, it goes into your system so quickly.
So how could we run with this? Because one of the reasons runners run with those energy gels because you put them in a pouch here, and then you just going through it, and
of course, and you can have it as you go along.
It has to be practical. It has to be easy to take with us and eat.
Certainly, if you get organized well enough, because there should be hydration points on your route, you can ask somebody, one of your friends or somebody, to be there to get you your coconut water, or you wear a camel.
Camel.
If that's just not realistic.
So you would put in the camel, you would put some coconut milk. Sure. Not milk, coconut water.
Coconut water.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then you'd carry the things, in
a little. I hate things moving when I'm running. I hate things flapping about, and I find it really irritating. So I found a really good bum bag that sits. I can really tighten it up around my hips, and it doesn't flap about. Once you're fat adapted, by the way, you don't need to worry about this because you don't need anything for those 26 miles. Your body just happily glides along running on fat. Yeah. If you're fat adapted, you do need hydration. That is important. You need actually more hydration when you're fat adapted. Yes. But if you're not, you've got to have your little pockets. I mean, usually all the fitness wear now has little key pockets. So, you can have your little hits of... coconut oil is massively energy giving and very concentrated, so you don't need much of it, and goes down really easily because it melts as soon as it goes into your mouth. And with some honey, which is a mixture of glucose and fructose, but mainly glucose with good honey, you're going to get that sugar hit anyway to keep you going. So a good fitting bum bag that isn't flapping about is the way to go, and then take that as you need it. It's a tricky one.
Sorry to interrupt you. How about those pouches of mashed carrots with apples that you find in Morrison's, and they're for babies. And people who need glucose, no?
Yes,
people
I don't know if it would. I mean, it's a really nice idea because it's a much healthier option. The trouble is, which is why I go for the kind of coconut honey route, when you've got fiber involved, so with apple and any of your veggies, there's fiber. And what fiber does, which is normally great, is it slows down how quickly the sugars in the veg or the fruit hit your blood sugar. And mid-race, you want sugar ASAP.
Yeah. So the coconut with honey.
Coconut and honey, and you can roll it up and chop up some dates if you want to, and then roll them in desiccated coconut so they're not so sticky. And you can make tiny ones or big ones, and they go down really easily.
Do you have on your website these kind of recipes, or do you have an ebook you can share? Or something
I do have my ebook. Although it sounds like it's just a weight loss book, it really isn't. It's about getting really healthy and becoming fat adapted. Okay. So it's called, which is kind of contrary to what we're talking about today, but the title of my book is called Why Eating Less and Exercising More Makes You Fat.
Okay.
Oh, look. Ta-da!
Brilliant. Okay, that's brilliant. So
but there's also an ebook, and it's on Amazon, and it's got on iBooks and all that sort of stuff.
So as runners, we can find some of the things that you mentioned.
Yes, and the recipes are in the back for all sorts of things It's not a cookbook. I never meant it to be a cookbook. It's for my quirky little recipes that have got me into convenient and quick ways of eating. I'm no chef. I just throw food together. Perfect, so quick ideas to do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
There's a whole section on intermittent fasting. So training yourself to be better at this intermittent fasting, which, by the way, not only is just great for getting your body fat levels down, great for brain health, great for anti-inflammatory healing. It's been proving to be so beneficial for neurological diseases. It's great for anti-cancer protection. I mean, it's just the benefits for intermittent fasting are huge. Yeah. And it's what you and I do, which it doesn't mean starving yourself. It just means having supper early and breakfast late a couple of days a week minimum. Yeah. And so it is doable for most people. So there's a whole chapter on intermittent fasting. There's a whole chapter on getting your gut bacteria working well, because that controls all our metabolic functions, particularly our inflammatory
for runners, that's again a very important part.
Huge, really huge. The importance of sleep and managing your stress, and that's a huge one. If you're pushing your body hard through exercise, which any distance runner is doing, you need to be getting really good sleep. Yeah,
that's when the body recovers. That's
where your body gets the benefit. Yes,
and of course, then the benefits of
I think people make that mistake. They think they benefit while they're exercising. Yeah. There are certain benefits from the increase in oxygen, but the real core benefit is happening afterwards. Yes. You wear the body down, it has to recover. You stress the body, it revs up its recovery process. That takes time. Yes. Do not overtrain. It's one of my biggest recommendations. Let your body heal.
Yes.
Really key.
Well, the overtraining is another topic for another talk, actually. Exactly. Okay, let's see. Okay.
And by the way, this isn't. I don't know if you. This is fermented water. I have a lot of fermented foods, so foods full of live bacteria. Okay, very easy to make. I think I've put it in my book too. So it's called water kefir. It's a bit like kombucha.
Okay.
Live foods taste amazing, very rehydrating, full of minerals and full of good bacteria. So look into finding more ways to get fermented foods into you. Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good, because I've heard about fermented foods. Yeah, I've heard. I'm not an expert on the fermented part, but I've read about it. So I think we've kind of covered everything, really.
We've done a lot, haven't we? I hope we haven't confused people, but there's a lot in there.
I don't think so. Or if they're confused now, they can watch it again. So guys, watch it again.
Exactly. And one quick question that came up. So one of your viewers was asking, and I see it a lot with women. They get anemic when they're training hard.
Yes.
So anemia comes from low iron.
Oh, yes.
But rarely are people's diets low in iron. Unless you're vegetarian or vegan, then it's likely you're just not getting enough from food, because the vegetarian source of iron is not readily absorbed. The animal source of iron is readily absorbed. So if you're having animal products, you're probably not having low iron in your diet. It's about getting the iron from your food into your system, and that happens in your stomach. You need lots of vitamin C to be present to get the iron out. But also you need lots of stomach acid. And if you're eating when you're stressed, when you're rushing around, when you're not focusing on your food, when you're kind of busy and you're just eat, run, you don't make enough stomach acid because your body's not in the digestive mode properly. Too little stomach acid means you won't absorb your iron from your food. Also won't break down your protein into your amino acids properly. Stomach acid is critical for that. So if you're anemic, start at least by slowing down when you eat, never eat on the go, never eat standing up, chew your food really well, and give your body a chance to get those iron molecules out of your food. And if you still have a problem, be very, very cautious with iron supplementation, because it's very easy to over iron your body, and too high iron is really toxic.
You go on the other side, so
you go on the other side, and it's very hard to get iron out.
So you can't, you can't be at either of the extremes. It has to be somewhere in the
middle.
middle.
And this is such a good point. You know, too much of one thing might be bad, but too little is also bad, and vice versa. It's like high blood pressure is bad, but so is low blood pressure. You know, I've always had low blood pressure, and it sucks because you fall over if you stand up too quickly. And every medic will tell you, oh, you've got lovely low blood pressure. Well, there is an optimal. Too high is bad, but too low is also bad. Same with cholesterol. Too high is bad, but too low cholesterol is a real problem too. So it's all about getting the body working at its optimal. And you've got to remember that marathon running is not a natural state for the body. You are pushing your body to do things it's not really designed to do. So you've got to really look after it well to enable it to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's not the distance that our bodies were meant for.
Bodies are really, no. We're designed to walk a long way and then sprint short distances. If people are interested in also reading more about the kind of the science behind fat adaptation and all the papers that are available, and some real scientific boffin kind of people who've done this thing and looked into it, in particular a couple who were marathon runners and triathletes who used to be carb loaders, and now they run on fat and they train on fat. The really good people, Jeff Volek. Jeff is Jeff, and his surname is Volek, and he's a professor of kinesiology in Connecticut. He's written a book called The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance. He's brilliant. He explains it really well. Tim Noakes, great guy, South African. He was a massive carb loader, trained all his people that way, and then went, oops, I think we got it wrong. So,
it's interesting to read about
that. It's really nice that some people have gone, okay, I accept this isn't actually working anymore. So he's a professor in exercise and science and sports medicine in Cape Town, so he really knows his stuff. And then Mark Sissons, who he's an American. He was definitely a triathlete. I think he was an Ironman too. And he's completely changed his way. He's now paleo, which is very much no grains, no sugar, no dairy. And he trains top athletes, elite athletes, to be fat adapted. And he's got a blog called Mark's Daily Apple. And so there's loads of information out there, because I think people really struggle with this idea. It takes time, though. If you're even beginning to think about doing it, you need to be looking at an event at least 3 months away, but I would probably give it more like 6 months. At least 6 months to become fat adapted.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you for the links to all these books, including yours, of course. And I'll put them under the video so people can just go and check them out. Right, so how can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you, or if they want to read more about you? How can they get in touch?
Sure. Well, I have a website which is health-in-hand.co.uk. And there you will find links to all my stuff. I do a blog. I write about sort of current health science as much as possible, and the stuff that's going on with me. You can also find all the links to getting hold of my book there too. You can either get a book directly from me or all the usual outlets like Amazon and bookshops and things like that. I'm working in London 1 day a week, and then I work just outside London where I live in Surrey, and people can come and see me. But increasingly I'm doing Skype and FaceTime and phone consultations, because people obviously are busy, and I also work with people all over the world. So if people are interested in a one-on-one, they can go to my website and find out about all my consultations.
Brilliant. I'm going to add the link to a website as well.
Lovely. Okay.
That's it. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming.
Thank you.
And this is priceless information here. And I hope people will get in touch with you. And well, thank you very much for watching, and for Stephanie for being here. And this is Alexandra Merisoiu from the Merisoiu Technique Institute of Health and Human Movement. And I'll be waiting for your comments, share it, and if you have any other questions for Stephanie, I'm sure she will answer them for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye. Thanks, Alexandra. Bye. Bye-bye.